And that means that the No Child Left Behind Act is going to be left behind. It's in for an overhaul. Today, the White House will send a new set of guidelines to Congress. We're joined now by Education Secretary Arne Duncan. He's at the White House. And with us from Hartford, Connecticut this morning, CNN education contributor Steve Perry. Mr. Secretary, let's go over the changes that are going to be made here. What are you keeping from No Child Left Behind, and what new elements are you planning to introduce?
What we always appreciate from the previous administration was a focus on the achievement gap and disaggregating data and look at the difference in achievement amongst students across different races here in the country. So we need to maintain that focus, but there's lots we need to change. The previous law was too punitive. It was too prescriptive. It led to a lowering, a dumbing down of standards. And it led to a narrowing of the curriculum. We have to reverse all that. We have to have a high bar, college and career-ready standards for every single child. We have to reward success, reward growth. We have to make sure that local educators have the flexibility they need to do a great job educating. We have to raise the bar for every single child. We have to make sure we have a well-rounded curriculum. And most importantly, we have an unprecedented investment in education as part of the President's plan.
The goal is, the original goal of No Child Left Behind was to have everyone reading at grade level, all students reading at grade level by the year 2014. Now you want to have them prepared for either college or career when they graduate high school by the year 2020. Steve, you're a principal of a magnet school there in Hartford. What do you want to ask the Education Secretary this morning? What do you want to know about this new plan?
Good morning, Mr. Secretary. One of the things I'd like to know is that most of America's most successful educators have had the right to choose their staff and evaluate their staff. How is what you're proposing going to make my job easier?
And first of all, Steve, thank you so much for your leadership. I know what a great school you're running there. We want to make sure that principals and teachers are truly empowered, and we want to make sure local educators have a chance to make a difference in students' lives. So we're going to put an unprecedented investment, $3.9 billion, to make sure that teachers are getting the support they need, have time to collaborate. We want to invest in that next generation of great principals, a five-fold investment there. As you know, Steve, there are no good schools in our country without good principals, so we're going to make an unprecedented investment in people, in great teachers, in great principals. That's what makes a difference in education. Talent matters tremendously.
Mr. Secretary, this new program is going to reward high-performing schools where No Child Left Behind focused on punishing low-performance schools, but there still will be punishment meted out. The president just recently applauded the decision of that school board in Rhode Island for firing all of the students, firing all of the teachers at that one school. But Diane Ravitch, who used to be a fan of No Child Left Behind, she was the Deputy Education Secretary under the first President Bush, said recently about all of this, quote, "This strategy of closing schools and firing teachers is mean and punitive, and it is ultimately pointless. It satisfies the urge to purge, but it does nothing at all for the students." So what do you have to say about the punitive measures which will be continued in your new plan?
Well, we're going to put schools in a couple of different categories. Those high-performing schools and districts and states, we want to give them more flexibility. We want to give them room to move. We have so much we can learn from them, and there wasn't nearly enough done under No Child Left Behind to recognize success. We want to recognize and reward excellence and growth. There's another set of schools in the middle of the country that may not be world-class yet, that are improving every single year, and we want to help them. At the bottom, those bottom 5% of schools, those schools where 50, 60, 70% of students are dropping out, what we're saying is we have to challenge the status quo, and we want those decisions are always going to be made at the local level. But what we're saying is we can't continue to stand on the sidelines when we have so many high schools that are basically dropout factories. And we're going to challenge local leaders to work together, to work collaboratively. Adults have to stay at the table and work hard, but we can no longer sweep these situations under the rug. In past administrations over the past couple of years, nothing really changed there for those students. We cannot perpetuate poverty and social failure. We have to do a better job for those children and communities, and we have to do it with a real sense of urgency. We all have to come together to create a much better opportunity for those children.
Well, Steve, what do you think about that whole idea here? And poverty does factor into it, but when we talked to Diane Ravitch a little more than a week ago, she was suggesting that it doesn't matter how good your school is, if you have students that are born into poverty who are not coming to school, who are not getting any guidance at home, you really can't raise the level of the school, and it's not the fault of the school.
That's absolutely wrong. In fact, throughout the country, we've seen successful schools that exist within the most poverty-stricken communities. That is a cop-out. If you can't teach poor kids, then you need to get out of the profession.
All right. So Steve,
We've never had more high-performing, high-poverty schools around the country. That's why I'm so hopeful. That's why I'm so optimistic. But it also means we cannot tolerate failure when we know what success looks like.
All right, Steve, I know that one of the issues that you have particular interest in is the relationship between the administration and the teachers' union. Wondering exactly what that relationship is and also how it affects other programs that are out there as well.
Well, Race to the Top has really jumped out there and made some fundamental changes, and we're very, very excited on the ground level about what those changes could mean. But I am concerned, Mr. Secretary, as the teachers union, who's been opposed to much of Race to the Top, as well as No Child Left Behind, continues, will you relent?
We all have to work together, and we have one focus in mind, a huge sense of urgency. We have to educate our way to a better economy. America has to, again, lead the world in the percent of college graduates, and we're going to work with everybody, parents, students, teachers, teachers unions, administrators, school boards, politicians. All of us have to move outside our comfort zones. All of us have to collaborate, and we cannot relent. We, again, have to lead the world. We have a unique opportunity to now do that.
And Mr. Secretary, one of the big criticisms of No Child Left Behind is that it was never fully funded by the federal government. This new plan of yours, will you put the funds behind it necessary to administer it?
The president has just been so absolutely committed. There's an additional $3.5 billion he's asking for, the largest proposed increase ever in the K-12 education budget. So the president is just providing extraordinary leadership here, and he feels the same sense of urgency all of us do, and he's leading from the top.
Education Secretary Arne Duncan, Steve Perry, good to talk to you this morning. Thanks so much for being with us.